Welcome back, everybody. So this week I'm going to be giving my opinion based on the testing that I've done on the shellac, the vinyl sealer, and the poly primer. Let's get to it. I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. I'm not going to go into every detail. But one of the first things I want to say up front is when I'm discussing these, I'm not saying that any of these products are bad, okay? I think that each one of these products has a place in the market and a specific application where they work better than others. So I just want to put that up front. I've had some questions that I've always wanted to know, and just looking at how does this stuff really perform, and what are the differences. So let's start off with the poly primer. All right, so based on the testing and what I've done, this is the toughest primer and has the best adhesion out of the three, okay? You can pretty much put this on without sanding and you get almost as good as if you sanded with these two products, okay? Which makes sense because it's a metal primer, and a metal primers typically adhere better to different substrates and things. Now it is a two-component system, so you have to add a catalyst to it. Where I think that this shines is when you need a high build application primer. So like birch interior doors, oak cabinetry, or in a place where you feel like adhesion may be an issue. I just want to make a point to say that I am a believer in sanding for adhesion. And I think that if you'll go back and watch these tests, that it proves that you're going to get way better adhesion if you sand than if you don't sand. Now, in saying that, we're going to take a look at some other products on the market and see how well they stack up against a sanded surface. I want to use a deglosser. I've got some Bulldog adhesion promoter, and we're going to look at some of those and see how those would fit in too. The negatives for me on this product in my situation are that I've kind of had an issue with, I'm used to, vinyl sealer with a 20-minute dry time, all right, for doing production style work. When I'm refinishing kitchens, I need to, to make it affordable for people, I've got to crank through it pretty quick. So I need no longer than, an hour to 2 hour dry time. When I initially shot this, and it was probably in the 80s, it was taking up to 6 hours before I could sand this stuff. Now, that seems pretty excessive to me, and I kept thinking, well, maybe I didn't add the catalyst right and all that stuff. And I double-checked myself, and yeah, I was. So I'm not sure what the deal was. So I talked to Greg, and Greg suggested that I add some acetone to it to speed it up. And so I did that, and I got closer to where I want. Now, I'm still playing with this stuff, so I kind of want to leave that hanging out there before I make a final decision on whether I can use this in a production environment or not. And I don't know if part of it is, some of it was like I was laying on a really, really heavy coat. So I started off with a 2.0 needle nozzle, which is recommended. And I actually ended up going down to like a 1.3 on the last test I did. And I think that I was within an hour and a half, 2 hours, which is more reasonable time. The other downside for me on this product is that I can only do shades of color. So it comes in, I think, white, gray, and red. So, you can tint, to the, on a white, you can kind of get it more to the grayer side, and, vice versa in all those ranges. I personally like to try to do my base coats in whatever the color of the top coats are, okay? Which is where this product shines, okay? But if you're looking at chemical resistance, wear resistance, adhesion to a substrate, this is the king so far that I've found, okay? All right, so let's move over to the vinyl sealer. I like vinyl sealer a lot, okay? Now, I used to love shellac, but I like vinyl sealer even more than shellac, personally for me. And how this came about was I was having issues with sand-throughs on stained products, okay? And I was always having issues when I used a water-based by itself or waterborne with the sanding issue. Now, my good friend Bob Close had said, why don't you try a vinyl sealer? And I was like, well, man, I just don't want to deal with the smell. All right. So I did this project where I built, it was like 2 barn beds, and it was made out of poplar. And if you've ever stained poplar or used water base on poplar, it can be a challenge. And after that, I said, you know what? I'm going to give this vinyl sealer a shot. So I had another project where I was using poplar, and I used the vinyl sealer, and I really found out that it does smell bad initially, but it really gases off pretty quick. And by the time you get your top coat on, it's gone. And so that was kind of my first foray into it. And what I also found is Greg Saunders, again at NX Paint, during that time, not only did Bob suggest it, but Greg suggested it. And I said, does it really work under, you know, a waterborne finish? And he said, yeah, it's the best that I know of. You know, so because of those two guys, I switched over. Now, I've been using vinyl sealer for 2 years. Now, the verdict's still out on refinishing, and I've been doing all my refinishing with the vinyl sealer. No issues so far. Now, through the testing, what we found is this has a lot better hiding power. Now, how I learned that was not actually from the test that I did. I've known that for a while now. And I've kind of said that to people, but they've always still, I think this has been such a industry leader in sealers that no one's really actually believed me until I recently did the tests. So now this is way more alcohol resistant and water resistant. So my personal opinion is that this is better in a kitchen or a bathroom application than this, just for that reason. Now, I can't prove that completely until we do the next test to see. The bin. A lot of guys have asked me about this recently due to the testing. I still like this product. Would I use this in the kitchen? Still, knowing what I know now, I don't know. I'm at a loss. Like these two products are, you know, kind of they could go either way. One thing I will say that is a great advantage of this is the solid content, okay? It's got way more solid. So if you're shooting an oak cabinet in a refinish, or you're just starting with an oak cabinet, you're going to get a better build with this than you do this, okay? So you're going to have to do like 2 coats of this versus 1 coat of that. So there's that issue. They're priced pretty comparatively, excuse me. Now, one disadvantage to the shellac is that it's kind of like the poly primer. You can only tint it so dark. This, you can tint it whatever color you want. It's been around for so long, and it's been such a great sealer. Now, for some of you all that are worried about smell and VOCs, I've been using this Exalta, and I really like it. I've got some coming from CIC that I'm going to try and see if it's any different. It's a lower VOC. It's a 275. I think. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it's a 275. One of the issues I've had with this shellac is it dries really, really hard, okay? And it's almost dries so hard that it's brittle, okay? Now, I've got some places up in my house where I primed my trim with this, because it was pine that got so hard and now it's cracking. One of the other issues I've seen, because I've been using this product for around 9 years on a lot of refinish situations, and what I find is like I've not had a failure with the CIC top coat, but I've had some, it's not a complete failure, but like edges have like chipped off from the primer, okay? So that's just something to think about. And I was talking to a guy today that's had similar issues with that. But again, I'm not saying that this is a bad product. So where I think this would be good is like, you know, doors, trim, in a refinish where, you know, smell is an issue. Now, if I had my druthers, I would really like to find a water-based primer that would work, okay? Now there's a few that I'm going to test and look at, and I have some ideas on dealing with the sealer issue with water-based primers. Right, so my final thoughts, and then I'm going to pick a favorite of these, okay? So my favorite is the vinyl sealer, okay? Because of the production value, and even though it has a little bit worse stench than the shellac, it dissipates really quickly. I'm going to be honest with you, this is a better product, okay? Straight up, in terms of, you know, all those things, water, chemical, and adhesion, than this product. But I just haven't solved the issues I need to solve with this yet to bring it in. I still think this is a better fit for me in my situation. Now, some of you guys may be sticking with the bin, and I think that's fine. My issue with the bin is the water issue, okay? Let's say your top coat gets compromised for some reason. Water gets into this. It's just not going to hold up. Not saying that it's a bad product, but I just feel like that you're getting a lot better protection with this. Now, we're going to look at that, and we're going to see if that's really the case or not with the testing that I've got coming up here in a couple of weeks. So, but it's going to take probably a month before we get the results on that. So we won't really know. But thanks for watching, guys. And I really appreciate the positive feedback I've been getting from a lot of guys. A lot of guys don't post the comments on, but they contact me personally or through Instagram. And I really like kind of what's going on in the community of Instagram with a lot of guys talking about problems and finishes. That's really cool. I've had some really great long conversations with some other finishes in other parts of the country. Man, I appreciate that. It's so good to be around like-minded people and talk about this stuff and get excited about it, because man, I love finishing. I mean, you get me on the phone and you start talking finishing, and you're probably going to be in at least an hour, okay? And then you're just going to have to hang up and say, hey, I got to go. So anyway, I appreciate all that, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.